that person who's always in a bad mood, they're always complaining about something. It's like they have a fucking dirty diaper. They got a shitty ass diaper on and it smells. And it's like, hello, you just shit your pants. You're walking around with a shit ass face on. Go change your fucking diaper. Welcome to the Penthouse Frequency. I'm your host, Carla Elizondo, licensed psychotherapist and mindset coach. Here we explore personal development, spiritual awareness, emotional sobriety, and the tools that help you regulate so you can live from the inside out. We're not here to bypass life. We're here to alchemize it. No more basement thinking and feeling. It's all about the penthouse, baby. Let's dive in. Why is change so hard? Particularly when we find ourselves struggling, when we're in a negative spot. Why is it so hard to have faith and change into a more positive outlook? I've always been into personal development, like positive mindset, law of attraction, that sort of thing. I understand the power of our mind, truly. Mind is cause. The rest is effect. And although I personally don't believe we control the entire universe because we are not alone in this universe and there's many things that we don't see going on, I full-heartedly believe that we have 100% control of our experience of what happens. And really, the manifestation isn't so much about the outside world, like manifesting physical things that will bring me peace, or so I think they will. It's more of an inner game. It's manifesting inner peace, and then everything outside seems to fall into place. I think a lot of people have it backwards. I want to do a whole episode on, approaching this mindset work, the law of attraction, manifestation, goal achieving from love and peace versus fear and chasing. Because I think a lot of people struggle with keeping up. They're like, this is too much work. This whole I got to do my affirmations. I got to, journal. It's like a full-time job, like wanting to manifest something when really it's a natural part of life. And I think we have it backwards. We truly do, how I always say, living from the inside out versus the outside in. That's what most of the law of attraction and personal development rhetoric is. It's about controlling the outside world so that we will have inner peace, manifesting certain things like a certain amount of money, a certain partner, or a house, because we think that'll bring us peace. And it's okay. It's not to give those things up if that's what we prefer. But if we're not approaching it from a place of peace, we will never be happy. So that is going to be a whole nother episode, but I just wanted to talk about why is it so hard for us to change? I myself have been doing this for over 20 years, just really minding my mind, paying attention to my thoughts. I understand that my thoughts truly are cause, and I am in control of how I experience anything in life. And it's up to me. I can be positive, I can be negative, and anywhere in between. That's why I always talk about that penthouse metaphor, right? The penthouse frequency. Hello. Am I living in my inner penthouse? Am I having penthouse thoughts, positive thoughts, happy thoughts, productive thoughts, adaptive thoughts? Or am I living in that emotional basement? Am I just giving up, complaining? And yeah, sometimes I do, but once I notice it, because it does not feel good, and thank God I surround myself with people who won't let me get away with that for too long, but the more that I grow and the more that I expand, new level, new devil, truly, I find myself questioning or doubting, can life really be that good? Does this stuff really work? I don't care what level people are at. We all have to find our footing. When we get to that new elevated state of our next level, there's a whole new level of faith that we need to embody. And yeah, it does get wobbly for a while. And I just found myself recently in another wobble, trying to recalibrate to a new level. And that always happens with me. But this is a whomper, man. I was just having such a hard time being positive in my mind. I was finding myself being really bitter, or when people were positive, I was rolling my eyes inside and being oh, I wish it was that easy. I was just being so negative in my mind, and I was noticing it. I was observing it, not judging myself, but I was kind of laughing at it. Why does my brain automatically go to the negative? Why is it so easy for us? Because it's familiar. Because, of course, our brain is wired for survival. It doesn't want us to get hurt. And so the bravest thing we can do is be positive and to have hope and to have faith. And I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you're somebody who is into personal development, goal achieving, positive mental attitude, penthouse frequency. But those people in your life who they roll their eyes at the law of attraction or manifestation, and they think you're a bliss ninny and you're smoking the hope pipe, and you're just deluded delusional or whatever. But the truth is that we have a choice where we focus our attention, how we perceive things, how we look at situations in life, through a positive lens or a negative lens, through the penthouse or the basement. And as we've learned, when we're down in the basement, those are just really nasty negative thoughts that make us feel like garbage. Not to blame ourselves again, we have all sorts of thoughts, but we don't have to stay there. They don't feel good. We can reach for a higher thought. We can truly shift the way we are seeing anything, even if it's the most atrocious thing we've ever been through. But I just find it so fascinating that we never question the negative. We never question the worst case scenarios or the bad news or bad things happening. It's like, oh yeah, of course, that's how the world is. We're just so skewed to the negative. But why is it so hard to be positive? Because it's scary. I was just reading something from A Course in Miracles. Let me pull it up. It was about freedom, basically, like our limitlessness. And it was basically saying, like, we are not afraid of being small. We're afraid of not knowing who we are without our smallness. We're not afraid of being limited and bound. We are afraid of being infinite and boundless because we feel safe with constrictions. We feel safe with those walls. We feel exposed in the wide, vast open. That's the truth. And so when we're in that basement, it feels cozy and solid because it has those four walls. It's dark. There's plenty of company down there. But in the penthouse, it feels open. It's high up. It's exposed. And so everybody says they want that view. They want that penthouse view. But when those comfort of all the walls from the basement and the lower levels disappear, it feels really vulnerable. You know, they have that saying, like, it's lonely at the top. It's because not a lot of people are there. Like Napoleon Hill always used to say, only 2%, 2 out of 100 people know where they're going and are decisive and like go after their dreams and make it happen. And it's not a coincidence that, 2% of the population have all the wealth in the world. That's another story, but it's a mindset. And so we're really not afraid of being small and never achieving. We're afraid of being boundless, limitless, and achieving the greatest because we would have to show up. And so I'm sure in your life you've experienced that sabotaging when you've reached that new level and you see that big view and you're up at the top in the penthouse, metaphorically speaking. It's vulnerable and you get scared and then you fall back down. You run back down those stairs to that basement because it's safe and it's familiar. We're not afraid of our success because it's unsafe. We're not afraid of our fullness, like our full potential, because it's not safe. We are afraid because it is boundless. It's infinite. It's the unknown, and we can't control it. That's what really scares us because we love control. We love certainty. We love security, or the illusion of it, because there really isn't any security or certainty. So if you want to prepare your nervous system for your next level, for being the highest version of yourself, that openness, that boundlessness, that vastness requires a different kind of stability. It's not based on outside things. It's based on inner presence. And that's really a truth that keeps coming back home to me. No matter what I achieve, no matter what obstacle I overcome or the achievements, like with the milestones, I always have a goal. And I'm so proud of myself. But more and more, I'm realizing the importance of having that inner peace. If I don't have peace, I don't want it. Peace truly is the goal. Because what's that saying? Like we often think that once everything out here falls into place, I'll be at peace. But really, it's when I'm at peace, everything will fall into place. That's the truth. But back to the theme of like, why is it so hard for us to change? Why is it so hard for us to believe that we can break through? Why is it so hard for us to have faith that even though our life has been stuck and has been the same for years or decades, that there is another way? We can truly make it happen. If we can see it in our mind, we can truly hold it in our hand. Like Napoleon Hill said, if you can conceive it, if you can think it and you can believe it, you truly can achieve it. And a lot of people say, oh, if I believe I can fly, I can achieve it. Well, do you really believe you can fly? That's where a lot of people, that middle part right there, belief is everything. No, because you really don't believe you can fly, so you'll never fly. It's important to, if you know in all of your cells and all of your bones, you believe, you know you could do it, you can. If you believe you can do it, you can achieve it. You just got to put that work in. You got to keep persisting towards it. And so I think it's interesting that we don't have any trouble believing in our limitations. Why is it so hard to believe in our limitlessness? And so it reminded me of this great story that I had just come across, the allegory of the cave from Socrates, the old philosopher. So the allegory of the cave explains man's condition. A number of men are chained in a dark cavern. A fire blazes around them, producing fearful shadows. Falsely assuming that the shadows are real, they cringe in terror and hostility. But one prisoner gets tired of it all. Taking courage, he decides to risk all in an attempt to escape. Fighting his way through the darkness, he emerges into the sunlight of the real world. He finds himself a free man. And what happens if he goes back to tell the others of his wonderful discovery? What if he explains that their agonies result from their illusions, that an entire world exists on the outside? Will they welcome his message? They will not. What? And give up their smug assumptions that they already know what is real? And disturb their ego-centered ways? No, they will scorn and resent him, call him a deluded fool, and remain in their secret despair. That is the truth. So for example, you're probably the person in your family who has big dreams, has big goals, wants to break free, and your family thinks you're nuts. So or your friends or whatever, or you're afraid to even speak up and say that you want to break free, right? And go out into the real world like this person. So again, this allegory of the cave is all these people are chained. They're like slaves in the cave, and they can't turn their head. They can't look outside. They don't even know there is an outside. All they see is the shadows on the wall, and they think that that's real life. But like the story says, this guy breaks free. He goes out, he sees the real world, he sees the sunlight, he's like, oh my God. But he does not go back in the cave because he already knows those people will think he's nuts. Those people are comfortable in their cave. And so if we want to tie this into the penthouse frequency or the basement frequency metaphor, the cave equals the basement. So those people were basically in the basement. It was dark, it was scary, it was terrible, but it was comfortable to them, and that's all they knew. And, when we're in the basement, all we have is like automatic negative thoughts, scarcity, victim narratives, a dysregulated nervous system for sure. And just like the cave in the basement, like the lights are dim, the air is all thick and heavy, everything just feels really small, but it's familiar. And that familiar is safe to the nervous system. Anything in your life, especially when it's negative, your nervous system it's like comfortable in its homeostasis. It's its baseline. That's why when people are in relationships for years and they don't want to leave, but they know they would be happier. I mean, they don't know what lies on the other side, but they know that they can have better, but they're afraid of the unfamiliar. They're afraid to leave. And so the person that got free from the cave, right, the prisoner that broke free, it's like when you decide to go after your goals, when you decide, I'm done. I am so sick and tired of living this way. I want to get up to higher floors. I want to get to that penthouse, baby. That's when you start to regulate your nervous system. You begin to question all of your narratives, your negative beliefs, reframing your automatic negative beliefs. You start to practice that emotional sobriety like we talked about. And yeah, at first it feels really uncomfortable. Just like there's other stories of the allegory of the cave where the guy who breaks free goes out and the sunlight hurts his eyes because he's been in that dark cave for so long, that the sunlight is so uncomfortable and it blinds him at first. And it's painful because he was so accustomed to the darkness. I mean, I'm sure he was like stumbling and falling and he couldn't see. That's like us. I think I spoke earlier about recalibrating to the new level. It's like, I was wobbly, man. So when we are on those higher levels, right, in the penthouse, it's bright. But when we've lived in that basement for so long, that brightness, it feels unsafe and it feels really uncomfortable. And so that's why people who are uncomfortable with change, or they look at you like you're nuts, they'll call you delusional. They'll say, that's not the real world. You can't just think your way into a new life. Like, that's not how life works. What they're really doing is they're protecting their basement life. They're protecting their basement identity. Because if you were right, if they believed you and they started to understand that their thoughts influence their experience in life, then they would no longer be powerless. They would have to step up and take responsibility for their life. And that realization is terrifying for people because they've built their whole identity around the struggle, around, being realistic, air quotes, and bonding, like trauma bonding, complaining with people, being a part of that tribe. It's not easy to stand out and be the lone sheep. And it's so crazy how people would rather be right in their pain than uncertain in their freedom. Isn't that wild? They would rather be right than happy. They would rather be right than at peace. That's total like ego pride. And I've definitely been there. And so why is it so hard for those people to escape? But I don't want to focus on those people. Let's talk about us. Why is it so hard for us to escape sometimes? It's the same reason for all of us, because our brain prioritizes familiarity over our happiness. Even if we keep repeating the same painful patterns, it's like the same year we live over and over. It's like Groundhog's Day. We continue these loops and nothing changes. Oh my God, I was reading wait, where is it in this book? I have it in front of me. Oh, here it is. It says, "What does every man want? He only senses what he wants. He wants to be free. Free from what? From his heartache and suffering, from his compulsive desires, from his fear of what other people can do to him, from secret shames and guilt carried over from past folly. He wants self-liberty, but he doesn't know what it is or where to find it. Still, he anxiously seeks, and almost always in the wrong places. In despair over finding the right needle in the haystack, he doesn't even see he is searching in the wrong haystack. He hopefully comforts himself. Well, tomorrow will be different, but it won't, and he knows it. He knows he will look back and find himself in the same old despair. The only change will be a few exterior surroundings, but it's still the same old haunted house." Oh my God, when I read that, that gave me chills, especially this part. He hopefully comforts himself, saying, well, tomorrow will be different, but he knows it won't. He'll just look back and find himself months or years or decades later in the same old despair. The only things that might change are a few things on the outside here and there, maybe some gray hairs, but this person will still be in the same old haunted house. Ugh, I have lived that truth. No thank you, man. So we stay in these painful patterns because they're familiar, they're known to us. And if we want to escape, if we want to get out of that basement, get out of those lower floors, those lower levels of living in our mind, right? Because whatever happens in our mind is reflected outside. If we want to escape, we have to tolerate being disoriented. The guy who got free and stumbled out and was blinded by the light, or when I'm trying to like up level, or I'm just coming to like a new level of awareness, my negative thoughts and my doubt and my negative bad mood, I call relapsing, emotional relapsing, with just like irritation and anger or like a low window of tolerance towards myself and others. You have to be able to tolerate that disorientation that happens within and without, really. And you have to grieve your old self. You got to grieve the old version of you. Keep shedding those layers. And most likely, you'll have to be alone for a while. You can't be afraid of being alone for a while. You got to have boundaries. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons people are so afraid of like losing their friends and even family sometimes, or their family will reject them. And I get it, but your family will be better off if you go out for a season and just like step away. I mean, you don't have to like cut your family off, but you know what I mean? Really lock in. And your family might not understand it and they might give you crap for it, but trust me, they'll be happy once you can show them what you've been working on, right? And hopefully give them better opportunities, give them a better life. And you'll definitely have to just like take full responsibility for your internal state. That is what this penthouse frequency is all about. And I mentioned it before, the Penthouse Frequency community, which is all about emotional regulation, that is officially launching in the next few weeks. I am so excited. It's a community on School. All of the information's below if you want to get on the wait list, and I will open the doors in a couple weeks. So look in the show notes below and click that link if you're interested in really incorporating these principles into your lifestyle. And so changing is not easy. Most people would rather just rearrange the furniture in the basement. I was going to say they would adjust the shadows in the cave, but they would just paint the walls. They would rearrange the furniture in the basement, then leave it. Yeah, most people would rather redecorate their basement than move upstairs, move higher floors up, or move into the penthouse. And choosing that inner penthouse, metaphorically speaking, it's not about pretending that reality is not what it is. It's not about, again, emotional bypassing or denying what is. It's about choosing a different interpretation from a state of regulation. So, for example, if you know anything about A Course in Miracles, that is like my spiritual sobriety, but there is a phrase that I use often, and it's, I am willing to see this differently. I am willing to see this differently. When you find yourself in a difficult situation, just ask yourself, and especially if it's triggering, am I willing to see this differently? If it's a person, am I willing to see her differently? Am I willing to see him differently? Am I willing to see this differently? Just be willing. You might not be. And you can even say that, like, I am willing to be willing. I am not willing right now, but I'm willing to be willing. I don't see them differently right now. I'm really upset with them. I want to slap their face, but I'm willing to see them differently. I'm I ask for a higher thought because right now my thoughts are in the basement and I want to drag them down here, right? But I'm willing to see them differently. And so being in that penthouse or being in higher levels is not about the emotional bypassing or denying what is. Taking care of business, but from a new interpretation, from a more adaptive place, more adaptive thoughts. Like that doesn't take any energy. It takes no effort, energy, attention, or focus to have shitty ass thoughts. Oh my God, there was the funniest metaphor. When people are in crappy moods or they're moody, you know that person who's always in a bad mood, they're always complaining about something. It's like they have a fucking dirty diaper. They got a shitty ass diaper on and it smells. And it's like, hello, you just shit your pants. You're walking around with a shit ass face on. Go change your fucking diaper, you know? Nobody wants to be around it. Nobody wants to smell your shit, bro. Like, get your fucking shit together. I cannot stand people. Again, we all can get in bad moods. Shit happens. Shit happens. We all, metaphorically speaking, shit our pants sometimes. We get in bad moods. But it's like, how fast are you going to go take a shower and like change your attitude? Seriously. But those people who are like, no, and now, and they just want to walk around in their shit and make it smell. There's a great metaphor, Sadhguru. He talks about how, there's two types of people who, when the crap happens to them, right? When shit happens to them, they walk around and they throw it in everyone's face and like, look at what happened to me. Look at my shit, smell my shit. And then there's other people who turn that into manure and they grow and they go, look at the beautiful crap that happened that I can use as soil and to grow now. We all know those people. We don't have to be around them. They're honestly insufferable. Insufferable. And I pray for them. But I don't know who said it. Was it Earl Nightingale? Or maybe it was Napoleon Hill. I think it was Napoleon Hill. And Earl Nightingale used to talk about that too. And so did Bob Proctor. People who are addicted to their bad attitude, like you cannot help them. Don't even try. They are living in their own basement, their own cave, their own hell. And they like it. They are happy as freaking clams down there. Bye-bye. It's like hell. People, they love their familiar hells. It's all based in fear. And it's basically like that allegory. It's like you're a slave. You're a slave to your bad attitude and they love it. Unconsciously. But the penthouse it's that peace. It's that inner peace. It's coming from a place of love, genuinely, instead of fear. And it's freedom. And so back to my dirty diaper analogy, people, again, we can all get in bad, crappy moods and we all can, crap our pants. But how fast are you going to change? It's not nice to walk around. You don't enjoy it. You can smell your own crap and everybody around you can. And it's not to deny it or bypass it, but it's like, you can change it. You can change it. So anyways, that was a side tangent, but when we are on those higher levels, yeah, we do have to take full responsibility. We can change our interpretation, just be in a state of regulation, and we're more responsive instead of reactive. We're just more patient. We're not so triggered. We're in a more, because once our nervous system is regulated, we can be more creative instead of just like totally shut down and collapsing. And yeah, you take responsibility for the meaning you give things, and then everything else follows from that. Because when you choose the meaning, the interpretation, the perception of it, it'll affect your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, your actions, your behaviors, and your results, and everything. You see more options instead of just like all the terrible things that can happen. And I think it's so important to remind ourselves that it doesn't matter what happens on the outside. Like, follow me here. It doesn't matter if the jerk at work changes or not. The only thing that matters is that your perception does. If you can get to a place where I'm willing to see him differently, or like a crappy, like you get fired from your job, like an objectively really crappy thing, it doesn't mean that you're going to get saved and get a great job the next day. And, because what happens on the outside world is going to bring you inner peace. No, you are going to rest in the peace that you're going to be okay no matter what, even if you don't know how. I remember Bob Proctor always used to say, like, what's the worst case scenario? Are you going to end up starving under a bridge? Like, do you not have one friend or one family member to call? I know we have pride and we don't want to do that, or like sleep on someone's couch. Trust me, I've had to do that. But it's like worst case scenario. We're very privileged, especially if you're listening to this. You have some sort of device to listen to. There are resources we can tap into. It is never ever that bad. We can always shift our perception within, and our perception is going to shape our behavior, and our behavior shapes our results, like I mentioned before. So anyways, there was something else I wanted to read. I am reading this book. I've wanted to read it for a long time. It's called The Mystic Path to Cosmic Power by Vernon Howard. I'll read this last part. It's right in the beginning of the book. It says, "There is a way out. Man is a frightened wanderer. That is an observable fact. But there is a second fact he rarely glimpses. There is a way out. It consists of finding his true identity. That is the only way any human being has ever shed the ache of separation, isolation, and loneliness." Ooh, this is a great story. It says, "A prince was kidnapped at birth from his father's palace. Raised in poverty in a wretched village, he rebelled against the poverty of his life. He constructed careful plans for becoming king of the land. Through a series of schemes and battles, he won the throne, but he was anxious, hostile. Having taken the kingdom by force, he lived in dread of other ambitious men. It was day-to-day misery." So this prince had been kidnapped at birth. He was a prince by birth, but he had been kidnapped from the palace and raised in like poverty. And he was like, screw this. And so he fought his way to be the king of the land. But then he learned his true identity. He is a king by birthright. He sees the stupidity of trying to retain by force what is already his by inheritance. Now, with this kingly consciousness, there's no fear, no threat, only quiet dominion. That's like us. We, by birthright, we have everything within us. We don't have to fight or compete for anything. And so he uses this quote by Aldous Huxley. "It is because we don't know who we are, because we are unaware that the kingdom of heaven is within us, that we behave in the generally silly, the often insane, the sometimes criminal ways that are so characteristically human. We are saved, we are liberated and enlightened by perceiving the, until now, unperceived good that is already within us, by returning to our eternal ground and remaining where, without knowing it, we have always been. Every man is a king through conscious awareness of his true identity. He need not try to be anything. He need only realize who he really is, a king by birthright." How can we start practicing this idea? How would you feel if you had no fear? Feel like that. How would you behave toward other people if you realized their powerlessness to hurt you? Behave like that. How would you react to so-called misfortune if you saw its inability to bother you? React like that. How would you think toward yourself if you knew you were really all right? Think like that. These are kingly states of consciousness. By living with them, you live like a king. So that's like assuming, right, the identity that you want to live by. Just try that on. Like, live like you know you can achieve anything you want. Live like it's already yours, truly. But it takes that inner work. It takes that inner work. And so every day we're choosing what level, like what thought system are we going to think from fear or from love? Like that's a Course in Miracles talk. Am I going to choose the thought system of love, the Holy Spirit, or am I going to choose the thought system of fear or the ego? Am I going to be host to God or hostage to the ego? And so wrapping the metaphor up, the cave just represents our unconscious belief system, and the basement represents our dysregulated states and our fear-based thought loops. And so when we climb upstairs, it really represents our leveling up, like that self-awareness, going up on that consciousness scale, like that David Hawkins consciousness scale, and regulating our nervous system. And so when we climb up, right, that penthouse represents the conscious creation and that internal authority, having that confidence. And any resistance we have is trying to stay comfortable, right? Preserving those old identities. And when we get out into that sunlight, out of the cave, get into that wide open air, the beautiful sunlight up in the penthouse, that's the truth. And that will shake our identities, our old identities. So we're not here to drag anyone out of the cave, okay? We're just here to do this work on us, right? Anybody who's ready, they'll see how we live and they'll be drawn to it. So if you feel like you're in the basement or you've been, thrown down there, you're ready for that sunlight. You are ready to start regulating your nervous system, taking it seriously, really finding that quiet time. It's all about that inner alignment first, having that peace within, and then everything, all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your behavior will come out of that. And then just by being at that peaceful place within, you will have peaceful results. It's just like a byproduct. So this was longer than I anticipated, but I was just thinking about, after I read the Allegory of the Cave in that book, about, why when that man broke free and he went back, I think there's even some stories where it says, he went back in the cave and they wanted to kill him. Like, how dare you tell us that these shadows on the wall aren't real? Are you stupid? You're delusional. Like, they resented him. They threw stones at him because they thought what he was saying was ridiculous. But that's like us with being positive. People do not want to be challenged. They don't want to be told that they have all the power within them because they're really afraid of it, because then they would have to take that responsibility. And, us too, that's kind of where I've been at, of dang, the growth really never ends. And I don't want it to, but it never gets easier. But I have the tools. Thank God I have the tools to regulate and calm myself and get to a place of peace. And then I move from there. That is the true game. I only want to manifest peace, because if I can manifest peace, I can manifest anything. I never have to worry. So again, if you're interested in learning those regulation tools, being part of a community, I'll do live calls, Q&A, all that jazz. The information's below to get on the wait list. And I am so grateful to have you all here. I can't wait for next week's episode. I have no idea what it's going to be about, but I'm grateful for your love and support, and I will see you next time.